one of the coolest lenses that I have ever used, I received this past Christmas, and I was able to bring it out to Wyoming and Montana, and some of the images, I was really striving for more wildlife versus anything, and turns out not all of that happened. Not all of the wildlife shots that I wanted with a backdrop of the mountains really occurred, but instead something else did, and let's get right into this review. In order to shoot this camera, you do have to lock it in place before you can take any images, or else it won't work. So that's the one thing about a prime lens that can be a little bit annoying and sometimes limiting, but at the same time, it can give you some amazing results. Another thing to mention is once you do use this, it's stuck at this f11. It cannot go any further down, because that is the set amount on a prime lens. You usually can't change it, which makes it a little bit tougher to get that shallow depth of field, unfortunately, but usually worth it. This lens is a little bit limiting when it comes to that f-stop, because it's harder to blur out all of the background as you would if you had an f-stop of, let's say, 2.8. And any of these kind of lenses, any of the longer lenses with like an f2.8 or things of that sort, are really, really pricey. So this is a great introductory lens if you wanted to try out a prime lens. So the first objective with this new lens was doing bird photography. Before anything else, I wanted to learn how to use it to the best of my ability before I went out west, and just practicing for actual wildlife between moose, maybe it would be wolves, I wish, or anything else that came our way. So I was just practicing nonstop, and then here's some of those images that I used from my backyard that I was actually genuinely impressed with, and then we went out west. After many delays, we finally made it to Wyoming, and then we went to Montana. Considering that my brother and I are always on some sort of weird side quest, we decided to try some ice climbing in Highlight Canyon and got to do some adventure photography. So those last two shots were on the 25 through 105 millimeter on the Canon, but the bird wildlife, that was all 600 millimeter. Just wanted to make a little detour in the video. And then we ended up heading into the Tetons to really test out this new 600 millimeter lens, and it was one of the most unforgettable days I could ever have in the mountains. So let's get right into it. So I really enjoyed taking photographs of the bighorn sheep, especially on the 600mm, as I was able to get that alpha bighorn sheep that was at the top of the rock outcroppings and kind of doing like a negative space with it. And then we headed back into the Tetons, and this next shot that I'm about to show you wasn't my favorite because although there were these elk lined up along a ridge with the backdrop of the Tetons, because I had a 600mm, it couldn't get all of the detail of the mountains behind him, which I will show you now. As it became extremely sunny outside, the next thing that was up was chasing a sunset. And I truly wish I had some video footage from this experience. I think my brother does, probably on his own YouTube, which I'll link below. But there was something unreal about this entire sunset, and using this 600mm lens, I realized it wasn't really wildlife, but landscape photography that I love with this lens, which I'll show you now. So the Canon 600mm f11 is amazing. I love that it's versatile, so I can use it for both wildlife and landscape. And it's also just a great lens to start out with if you want to try a prime lens, because they do offer really sharp images, and they also have this little thing for a tripod if you don't want to shoot handheld. All the images you saw in the video were handheld. I just don't have the patience with the tripod. I'm sure it could be 10 times better, but I kind of like the chaos for how I do photography. And other than that, this brings an end to the video. If you like this video, leave that like. If you want to, subscribe to the channel, or just leave a comment if you want to see some other videos in the future, and I am definitely open to ideas.